simulation software. Specifically, how do we use software to better help perhaps the people in this room or anybody to better design products to better fit people and to really set up a pipeline of having products and humans in a way that you can visualize those products in many different ways. I'll explain what that means. Just a bit of a quick background. We're 4.5 years into our mission. We've been shipping software commercially to content creators and people who need to visualize essentially things that are biomechanically correct and that change shape and really reflect the movement of soft tissue and other parts of the body in motion. We ship our products with a focus on being very current, being late and great, being on time, being ahead of time and great, I should say. But the latest and greatest are always shipped quarterly. So as new technologies, new innovations come to bear, we're embodying those and getting them into our software. And where this comes from, this stems from technologies just as automotive, maybe 20 or 25 years ago, started making the shift to putting everything in CG and everything into simulated visualization. These technologies have been at play in the realm of media entertainment for a long time. Since we started our company over the last 4 years, we've become the de facto standard to how biomechanical things are simulated and visualized in really high quality and in accurate quality. But really, what's really interesting to us and why I'm here is we're starting to see and really hear about this unmet need of how do I get a human and a product into an image or into a video or into something interactive in a way that's realistic. And the problem space is twofold. We see it that when you're designing software, we're designing software, as you're designing product, those iteration cycles of having to go to practical material and textile, and go to the factory and go overseas and come back again and iterate back and forth, you can't meet the diversity of the human population. So we know that there's a huge capacity there to virtualize a lot of it. So imagine if you could do half of those iterations in software. If you can take a 2-year product development cycle, cut it down to 1 year. If you could make sure that the same amount of time means you're going to fit twice the amount of humans or twice the amount of body types and sizes. And the second piece that comes out of this is when you're pairing product with humans in a visual or a simulated sense, your visualization options get greater. You almost start to 3D ready the things that you're doing. So if you look at IKEA having kind of moved most of their product to CG a long time ago, I mentioned obviously the shift in automotive. Here's a great example. The same product shot with 2 different lenses, looks drastically different. Which one is right? Which one is on brand? Imagine if you had it in software where you could basically position camera, lighting, product, the human in whatever way you want, and export, run that thing out for Times Square or Instagram or a video or a game or what have you, or a retail experience. So just touching on some of the technology that is unique to us, and it's twofold. So we help to simulate the body through a concept of simulation of volumes of things that take up space. We're applying some really cutting-edge technologies to do this. The finite element method is kind of the terminology that's used, and it kind of stems from the same space as how bridges or buildings or things that need to be engineered to last are designed in software. We've taken that and converted it and changed it and added a bit of our own work to have that applied to soft tissue and the material properties of bodies. The second piece is the cloth, is other materials. How do you effectively replicate materials in software? And this is really taking the notion of material sciences and giving the ability in software to replicate anything, whether it's a jacket, the cloth on the table, the glass, in those centerpieces. Anything that exists in the real world can be emulated in software in a physically correct way. And putting those two things together is really where we deliver software that is unique in this space. So we know a lot of the textile and fabric and pattern making softwares that are out in the market today essentially let you dress a concrete or a stone mannequin or a statue. We believe the concept of coupled simulation, of being able to put the two things together, is going to change how these products are made. So if you want to see how fabric is going to affect the movement and motion of the human body and the tissues that make up the human body, we can do that in our software. This being a fairly rudimentary test on the left-hand side, because we can't really show some of the POC work that we have been engaged in. but it does illuminate what's at play, especially in the complexities of base layer clothing, of bra design, and even getting to things that drape and flow and move in different ways. But then the notion of the video on the right-hand side is once you've done that physics simulation work through design tools, through common ways, the same way someone might design something in the real world, they can design it in software. Once you have that, you can run it through a host of other software to allow you to render it and visualize it in extremely realistic ways. So Adrian there is completely virtual, and Adrian obviously could be moved into any kind of media that you might need for advertising or in-store or e-commerce or social or what have you. Similarly, we've taken on some other kind of product needs, and said, okay, what are other things that pair up with the human body? And there are hard materials like jewelry. And what if you are limited to just the photo shoot you did last quarter, and that's the asset you have, and it doesn't reflect the full lineup of product? Or if you could do this in software, could we just swap out any product we want? Could we change the ethnicity of the model, of the hand, of the talon, of the neck, wherever you might want to focus in on? Can you change the resolution, dynamically? Can you change the lighting to match a different aesthetic? All these things are possible once you have taken those steps to take your humans and your product and get them into software. So where does this come from? This comes from myself and some colleagues and many more than that, that make up the team. But we've really brought together the schools of thought of, certainly myself, who worked a lot in the retail and apparel space for a number of years. My colleagues come from computer graphics and science and simulation and visual effects and filmmaking and entertainment. So bringing together the best of these kind of technologies and concepts and paradigms, but presenting it in a new way, and in a way that can solve really new problems. So why we think that's interesting for us as a company, and hopefully why it reflects to some of the things this audience is seeing today. Just some of those shifts, obviously the shift to e-commerce, but if you look at sustainability and reducing wastage and getting to market faster and fitting more people better with more products, happier customers, happier consumers. These are the things that are really driving our focus on this space. And once we've heard it several times, when we heard it from Nike, when we heard it from Target, when we heard it from Lulu, when we heard it from a few others, we know that there's a very real problem here, and we know that we're uniquely positioned to solve it, or to help solve it. And that is our presentation. Thank you.